Hi, this is Whitney Ward, and welcome to Mountain Climbers, where I talk to people who have scaled some pretty big mountains, and God's given them the strength to do that. And for this episode, I've got Georgia on my mind. I'm here in Marietta in my dad's childhood home, original paneling back behind me, folks. And I am with my cousin, who I affectionately call my cousin aunt, because she's more like an aunt to me than a cousin. And I am so excited that she's agreed to share her story of how she's battled and fought victoriously ovarian cancer. And I know her story is just going to champion you and encourage you today. So we're going to get right into it.
Okay.
First question, share a little bit about yourself and your family.
Well, I am, I'll go ahead and start it off. I'm 55 years old. I am married, have been happily married for 30 years.
Okay.
And we have one child. My husband's name is Kenny. We have one child, Tyler, who is 28. I've lived in this area for most of my life. I was born here in Georgia, down at Piedmont Hospital in Atlanta, but have moved several different places. I lived in North Carolina, lived in Wisconsin, lived in Ohio for a little bit of time, yes, and then moved back here and got married back in 1989, and I've just been here since then. So.
Well, I want you to share your salvation story in detail because, you know, that's your foundation. It's what's helped you fight this battle. So I want you to share with the viewers how that beginning started.
Back in high school, I was a senior in high school when I was saved, was baptized, and there was just always this tugging in my heart as a young child. Always believed in God, always, but as you get older and didn't really, and I don't want to put blame or anything on parents or anything, but didn't, as a young child, we went to church, but didn't always grow up. I went to a Catholic church when we lived in Wisconsin, and kind of just bounced around. But then when I got into high school and started dating, and my friends were all Christians, and we were part of JIA, Jesus in Action, in school. So back then we were still able to have Bible studies and everything in school. And I just wanted that closer following, and just felt that, you know, when I was a senior, that it was time for me to, I understood it more. And so got saved and baptized at Burnt Hickory Baptist Church, which is where my grandparents went to church. Went there until they, and so we went to church with my grandparents, and then when they moved out to the Burnt Hickory area, which is a little bit farther away, they started going to another church. My husband and I ended up living in that same area, so then we started going to New Hope First Baptist Church. I got up and took my grandparents to church every Sunday, and went to church with them. And then when they passed away, I just, it was an older church, a lot older, and it wasn't, you know, my son was saved in that church, but there just weren't a lot of people my age and Tyler's age there. So we started going to church, now Sanctuary, but and that's where just the people are so welcoming and affectionate, and it's just always been deep within that, you know, I can't see God, you know, you breathe, but you can't see the air, but you need it. And I've always just, you can feel it, and I've just always just had that deep sense of He's there with me. I need Him in my life in every situation. And am I perfect in that way? No. We all, you know, kind of don't look at Him in every situation that we need to. But yeah, it's just, I've just always been that type of person that just has always felt that longing for Him.
That's great. Well, little did you know that was going to come in handy, and that was going to be your saving grace when
Absolutely.
the worst thing that could ever be told to you happened. And so when those signs came that something wasn't right in your body, did your mind ever go to cancer?
You know, so it does and it doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you always think, it could be, but nah, it's not there. I actually I could feel the tumor.
Okay.
It was when I went to the doctor, and what's so, it's not funny, but we were at our cousin Michael's wedding.
Oh, okay.
And I had not been diagnosed yet, but I knew that something was wrong, and I did have an upcoming appointment for the doctor. And the only real symptoms, and that's one thing that I do want everybody to know, is that this type of cancer, which they say with a lot of cancer, that's why they call it the silent killer, is you don't feel a lot of things, but I just basically felt a heaviness in my abdomen. I didn't really hurt.
Okay.
But I could feel the tumor.
Gotcha.
So about a week after our cousin's wedding, I had my doctor's appointment, and I walked in and he says, well, I've got good news. You don't have to have a pap smear this year because different things, you know, everything's good and all that. And I said, okay, that's great, but can you tell me what this is? And he felt it and he says, that's not supposed to be there. And so he immediately sent me back for an ultrasound.
Okay.
And he told me that if he did a CA1, he did the ultrasound and then he did a blood work.
Yeah.
And he did a CA125, which is a blood test for ovarian tumors. And he says if it comes back at a certain level, then we're going to go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and take it out and we'll go from there. If it comes back a little higher, then I'm going to send you to an oncologist.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, mine did. It came back at a 237.
What's normal?
Normal is 35 and under.
Oh, wow. Yes.
But 235 is not, it's high.
Very.
But there's people in the tens of thousands that can be.
Yeah.
So when he told me that, he says, I've got an oncologist that I want you to go to. And of course I was, just kind of nervous, still not knowing.
Yeah.
Because even though that number did come back high, there was no biopsy done at the time. The biopsy was not done until I actually had surgery.
Oh, okay.
So I did not find out that it was cancer until they sent it off while they still had me opened up.
Okay.
So that then at that time they could go in and get surrounding areas to get a little bit more if they needed to.
Yeah.
So he sent me to Dr. Hines, who is here. He was not a doctor within the hospitals that I use and everything, but that's who my OBGYN used.
Okay.
And I will tell you that your doctor, who you use is so important.
Yeah.
Of course, scared, nervous, not knowing what was going on, but when we got there, he made me feel so comfortable.
Yes.
He told my mom before we left that we'll take care of your baby girl. And, excuse me. And he said, and we will pray for you before surgery and even now.
Yeah.
And that was just so, I walked out of there with just this sense of peace.
Oh, yeah.
So anyway, about that happened, I ended up having surgery in April. This is all started back in 2013.
Yeah.
By the way. So I had surgery, and by the time they took the tumor out, so with it from about a 4-week period, he told my husband that it was about the size of a volleyball. I don't think it was quite that big, but it was bigger than the grapefruit that Dr. Kelly had told me that it was.
Pretty big.
Yeah, it was pretty substantial.
Yeah.
And so he called, of course, afterwards, after surgery. Surgery went well. He called my son and my husband in, and he was explaining to my husband about what they did.
Yeah.
And my husband tells me today, it's kind of funny, he says, he finally looked at Dr. Hines and he said, okay, you need to put this in layman terms because I don't understand a thing you're saying. But he did say, the tumor was in bags. It was like 6, and he said, look at it like this, tea bags.
Yeah.
So there were 6 like tea bags that this tumor consisted of. And when they were removing the last tea bag, it burst. And he said that's not optimal. We don't, because then that gives a chance for those cells to go elsewhere.
Yes. Yeah.
So that's where this is all started.
Yeah. Okay.
From.
Okay. Well, I gotta echo. It is so good to have a doctor that you connect with, because they can be world renowned in their field, but if they don't have compassion or a good bedside manner, then why are they doing what
Absolutely.
they're doing? So I totally agree with that and sympathize. But my question is, did it come more of a shock because weren't you healthy before you got this diagnosis? So wasn't it even more like, whoa, I've been healthy, and now boom, I'm hearing the worst news possible?
Yeah, absolutely. And and also, and I don't know if this is going too graphic or whatever, but I had always grown up.
Yeah.
I was on a pill for several years, and you always hear in your mind that if you're on the pill, that a lot of times that women are on the pill won't get ovarian cancer or something down the road. So of course I'm in my mind thinking, okay, I was like, why did I get this?
Yeah.
But it's just it's for a purpose.
It is.
I fully believe that.
Exactly.
With all my heart, that there is a reason that God has allowed this to happen to me.
Yeah.
Did He do this to me? No. But He allowed it to happen so that me personally would also grow in Him.
Exactly, because He knew that you would glorify Him, and you'd be an Esther. You'd be for such a time as this, and you would glorify Him and help others. So I truly believe that's why He allowed you to go through this.
Yes.
So when you received the diagnosis that it was indeed ovarian cancer, who was with you? What was going through your head? What emotions were you experiencing?
Oh gosh, who was in the room with me? Because I had already had surgery. I want to say my husband was actually in the room at the time. And my mom and dad may have been in there.
Was Tyler?
Tyler was not, and the only reason that I say that is he at the time was attending Kennesaw State.
Oh, yes.
And bless his heart, he had an exam that day.
Aww.
So he was there when I had surgery and was okay when I came out and everything. And Dr. Hines told him, he said, your mom is fine, you go take your exam.
Yeah.
And so he was not actually in the there with me, but he of course already knew that it was.
Yeah.
My reaction at the time was not, I wasn't devastated. I just felt like, okay, well, you got it out.
Yeah.
It's not in me now.
Yeah.
And you feel like that of course they can't tell with every microscopic cell if there's, but from what he felt, everything was, was gone. And we just had to wait for the staging to come back and see what course of action they were going to take at the time. So, no, I didn't really break down. It was just like, okay, now let's attack this and do what we need to do to get rid of it.
Gotcha. That's very strong. That's really awesome. So what did you receive a good prognosis, and what was the treatment plan?
When we went back, they told me that I had stage 1C, which is good. I mean, it's and I've always had where that it's been stage 1. I've never heard anything, more than that. Prognosis, they've never told me anything, which I prefer. Because it's not them.
It's God.
It's God.
Yeah.
He knows when how long my days are, and I don't want to hear something from a doctor that's going to be in the back of my mind constantly. So all I knew was the staging. There was never really a prognosis.
All right. So what treatment did he say?
So we did do 6 treatments of chemo.
Okay.
I lost every stitch of hair on my body, eyebrows, eyelashes,
wow,
everything. Treatment was not terrible. Is chemotherapy hard? Yes, it is hard.
Yeah.
Each individual person has a different reaction. I think my the worst reaction that I did have with this treatment was I did come out, and I still do have neuropathy, mostly in my feet, not so much in my hands, but I do have the neuropathy, and the Neulasta that they put me on, which I know you've seen commercials and stuff with that, but Neulasta is what they give you when you do have very strong chemotherapy that will build your white blood cells back up,
gotcha,
so that they don't get low.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't the chemo that was causing this, it was the Neulasta that my bones, I mean, the aching was very, very difficult.
Yeah.
It would go away about 3 or 4 days after, first day after chemo, I felt normal, everything was fine, but Sunday morning you could feel it start. By Thursday, it would ease up.
Okay.
So that was definitely the most difficult part of that chemo.
Yeah.
And I just remember my dad would call every single day, how are you doing? And of course I would be in tears, and I would just say to him, but Dad, what I'm feeling right now is nothing compared to what Jesus endured on that cross for us. So I can get through this. It's just, and that's what helped me to get through that pain.
Yeah.
Laying there, just listening to songs. I'm a very musical type person, so worship songs are just very, they just, and it can be any song. I can pull something from any song and it resonate with me.
Yeah.
So,
awesome.
But
That's great. Well, you mentioned some of the side effects of chemo. And so what was the worst part? Not necessarily physically, but mentally and emotionally when it came to chemotherapy?
Oh gosh. Because I've been through several, it's difficult to really pinpoint, maybe not being able to get up and go to work like I need it to be. That's hard. I will, to lighten things up a little bit, because I don't like to dwell. I'm not one of those that likes to dwell.
You gotta laugh.
We were sitting in the bed one night, my husband and I, and here I am just bald-headed. And that is something that is very hard. As you can see, I've got very long hair. Chemo is probably a reason why I don't get it cut a lot, because I did lose it.
Yes.
And praise God, it came back. But we were sitting in bed one night, and I was sitting there with a bald head, and my husband was sitting there with his CPAP machine on, and I said, we look like, and just a couple of movies came into my mind. I said, you remind me of, and I can't even think of his name, but from Silence of the Lambs with his little thing on his face.
Yes.
And I said, and I look like Dr., I don't know if his name was Dr., I can't even think, it's in all of the Wayne's World movie, not Wayne's World, or the Austin Powers movie.
Oh yes,
with the bald head. And I said, that's who we look like. But I did say, but I will tell you, if you ever, I said, I'm not a pretty bald woman, but I said, I've got a really good shaped head. But it's
gotta
just,
find the blessing.
Yeah, it's just, there's just little things that, as far as, maybe one of the worst things was because my blood was low, I wasn't really able to I would see posts on Facebook with family from down here going out to eat, and it was like,
Yes.
God, I really wish I could go out and eat with them.
I get it.
Or, so it's just little things.
Yeah, yes, I get it. And maybe, it wasn't one big thing, but everything as a whole, little things.
Yeah.
That would be hard, because, there's something to be said for routine.
Mm-hmm.
And being able to go and do anything you want, no matter when,
right.
So that would be,
yeah.
that'd be very hard. I would say that would, for me, would be the toughest thing as well. So, all right. How long did you do that first course of chemo before you heard the words, you're cancer-free?
You don't hear, normally what they say is when you're 1 year after that last treatment, then they will say that you're in remission.
Okay, remission.
So it was 1 year after I finished that first, the 6 treatments. I had 6 treatments that they said that your scans look good, everything's good.
That's great. So after you heard these words, did you anticipate that your battle with cancer was over? You'd never have to go through it again?
I thought, oh wow, this. No, you don't think that.
Yeah.
You think that, okay, yes, they did get everything.
Mm-hmm.
The chemo worked. I went from 2013 to 2000. My last treatment was late 2013.
Mm-hmm.
I was diagnosed again in early 2017. So it was about 3.5 years that I did go. So, essentially, I was cured for those 3.5 years.
Yeah.
That's how I have to look at it.
Yes. Well, so what bout of cancer are you on now?
This will be number 4. Or this is number 4.
Okay, so how do you feel? Do you feel like just a wrung towel, or is it?
It's getting to be old hat. It's the 2 times before this one, I kind of had a feeling.
Mm-hmm.
I had pain in my back.
Oh, yeah.
Because of where the tumor was sitting. The second time, it was actually sitting between the vaginal wall and my colon.
Ouch.
And she ended up having to remove 6 inches of my colon and part of the vaginal wall.
Okay.
Got that, but I just had that inkling because of what my back was doing.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of confused her a little bit.
Yeah.
She was like, oh, it's probably arthritis, something like that. When my back started doing it again, that was in 2017,
Mm-hmm.
in 2018, it started doing again, and it always starts doing this right about the time that it's time to have an appointment.
Okay. Is that not typical for ovarian cancer to have your back hurt like that?
Well, it is, and it wasn't constant.
Okay.
Taking Tylenol would take that right away.
Okay.
So, but yes, it is.
Okay.
That is one of the, if you, back issues, bloating, those kind of things.
Uh-huh.
So, in 2018, it started doing it again, and I was able to have that surgery laparoscopic. So that was a much easier surgery, and I had radiation that time.
Yeah.
So the second time I had chemo again, that chemo was a little bit more difficult on my body than the first round was.
Okay.
I ended up in the hospital a week from it. All of my blood work bottomed out to the point if my blood did not start recouping, I would have to have a blood transfusion. I know that you're very familiar with those things.
I remember how horrible you feel.
You
So I
do.
feel awful for you. I remember that, actually.
You do. And I, what initially got me into the hospital was, I had gone in, it also it was hard on my heart.
Okay.
It didn't do any heart damage, but I could not get up and walk from here to across the room and my heart rate be up at 140, just like that.
Oh my goodness.
And so, that was hard.
Yeah.
But I was in the shower and had an appointment the next morning to have a CT scan done. She was concerned about that and was thinking that the symptoms that I was having could have possibly been a blood clot.
Okay.
Which is common when you're having chemo.
Yeah.
That can happen. And I was to get up the next morning. I was getting up the next morning to go have that CT scan. So I went in to get my shower, and I felt like I was going to pass out.
Oh,
and I called my husband, and he got me in the bed. He said, "That's it." He says, "You're going to the hospital."
Yeah. And
I ended up in the hospital for a week, and they had to. So that chemo was a little bit more rough. The radiation.
Yeah. What about that?
Was had 25 treatments there. It was they were kind of grasping at this point.
Yeah.
What can we do? These 2 chemos have not worked.
Yes.
Because of what my cancer is doing, normally ovarian cancer will spread to other parts, and mine, praise God, is staying in that same area.
Miraculous.
I mean, it is an absolute miracle that it is doing that.
Yeah.
And so what they did, my doctor got with an oncology radiologist, and they decided, well, you know what, let's just pinpoint that area. Let's just radiate it and see if this will work.
Okay.
Radiation was not bad. It did have having ulcerative colitis as well was not good on my bowels.
Yeah.
Just to say the least.
Yes, I have colitis, so
But it was not. I would prefer radiation any day. Where a lot of people, I did not have the burning. I did not of the skin and stuff because they weren't radiating my skin. Women with breast cancer, they will burn terribly because they're radiating the skin as well. Okay. So I did not have all of that. They were going deeper in. So yes, radiation was I was able to go to work. Okay. I work right next to the hospital that I was having my treatments at.
Oh, perfect.
Go there and then go home after my treatment.
That's great.
So that was good. This time
that God will work it out.
He is working it out. It is absolutely all in His timing.
Yes. And I know. I mean, He's gotten you this far.
Yes.
And He'll get you the rest of the way.
Yes,
He will. So you touched on this a little bit, but I want to go into detail. With each bout of cancer, what's gotten you through? What promises, verses, or songs have you clung to that helped you?
Song that comes into my mind every single time is "Overcomer."
Oh yeah.
By Mandisa.
Love that song.
Verses. Proverbs 3:5. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. It's I can't.
Yeah.
Gosh, Whitney, you chemo brain's a real thing.
I
the joy of the Lord is my strength.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, it's just and any song. There's any songs that'll come on.
Yeah.
That I can pull things from and just.
And the awesome thing is you don't have to remember where the scripture reference is, or exactly who sings the song, because the promises are still the same, no matter what. So that's really.
But cool. Yes, definitely the strength. That I mean, it's definitely from Him. I always, I worked with a lady that we always used to say we worked in the hospital, so of course we saw things like this every day. Yeah. And we both would say to each other, oh gosh, if anything ever happened to me like that, I would probably just crawl up in the corner and lay there in the fetal position.
Yeah.
But never have I.
Yeah. And
that strength from Him is all.
Yeah. I don't know how people do it without Him.
I don't either. I really don't.
Yeah. I agree. So I truly believe with every mountain that we climb, God gives us beauty from ashes, and we can see even if we're still climbing that mountain, we can see the beauty from it. And so, what beauty have you seen amongst the ashes?
It's really changed me as far as my perspective on trying to just find that glass is half full instead of half empty.
Yeah.
looking at other people and having more compassion for other people. It's definitely brought, don't always try to find the good out of every situation. If this can just touch one person, then I feel like that that it's doing something for somebody else. I don't want this for me. I want it to glorify somebody else by all means. It's funny that we're doing this right now. When you messaged me about it and said that you thought that the timing was great, I had been praying for this very type of thing. I've always wanted to be able to go out there. Am I an expert on all of this? By all means, no. But if I could just somehow be there to help somebody else through it, but I didn't know how to go about it. So this has kind of put that, opened that way for me to show somebody.
I just love how God works.
Yeah.
Because I had no clue. And I was coming to Lindsay's for vacation. We were coming down to Georgia. And I even text her. I'm like, hey, I know we haven't decided if we're going to Georgia yet. This is what I want to do for my October mountain climbers. And she said, well, funny you should mention that, because I was just getting ready to text you to see if you wanted to go to Georgia while you were down at my place. So God just orchestrated.
He does.
All of that. So
he
that
really does. And and I've just, it's helped, my husband and in his relationship, I've seen him grow in the Lord so much since this. My son, I've seen him grow so much more in this. And I do want to say that, none of this also can be done without those caregivers.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Amen.
My husband and my mother, I could have not done this without them. My mom has been by me every step of the way, where I feel like I should be taking care of her. I still feel like her little 6-year-old little girl. And so I'm always wanting my mommy there. And then my husband, y'all know Kenny. He has that little bit more rough personality and exterior to him. Is he a good patient himself? No. But oh my gosh, he is just the most awesome caregiver.
But what man is a good patient?
Well, yeah. And sometimes what man is a good caregiver?
Yeah, that's true.
And that is just something that God has blessed him with. That he has been there and taking care of me every step of the way.
Yeah.
And he's taken our vows in sickness every step of the way and has never left my side.
Yeah. Yep.
So.
Yeah. I mean, even if through all this, God just shows you, look at what you have, look what I've given you, that's, the coolest thing. 'Cause I think, so much we take for granted what we have when we're completely healthy. Yeah. And then when things happen like this, it's like, wow. Look, and especially when, he heals us.
Yes.
Like, oh my goodness, this is so new and fresh, and I didn't look at it this way before, and so it's so cool when you see it in a new light.
Oh yeah.
Very cool. I can totally relate. So, as you know, it's Breast Cancer Awareness Month, this month in October. So many around the world, women are fighting ovarian, breast cancer, those women, cancers. And so what encouragement, message of hope would you give to these women, keep on climbing that mountain, you'll make it?
Oh my gosh. Well, first of all, this is my 4th time going through this. Have I been healed from God? Yes, I've been healed 3 other times.
Yep.
And if it is in His will, He will heal me again. But you just have to keep fighting. You can't, don't give up.
Yes.
Don't give up. You always, one of my favorite 4-letter words is hope.
Yeah.
And you just have to keep trusting in God that He's going to complete your story the way that it needs to be completed.
Yep. Every story is unique, and it's made that way because there's someone who's going to need it. That's why we're not the same at all. And I have to say that you mentioned that if this even helps one person, and I believe it's going to help many. So I appreciate you coming and sharing this, because I know it's not an easy mountain, to climb. A lot of unknowns and uncertainties. So thank you so much for doing this. And so, you know what I say, when your strength comes from the right source, there's not a mountain you can't climb.